A very good evening to all our viewers, and welcome to this week's edition of The Agenda. Tonight, I'm so happy to have on the set the Deputy Minister of Youth and Sport. Of course, National Service is also included in that portfolio. That is Emma Kantema-Gaomas. Minister, thank you very much for joining us on the show tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Yes. As well as Isack Hamata is a veteran man in the sport fraternity. Of course, he played football many years ago, but now he's he's more of an observer really, and he does very good observations of sport in the country. Isack, welcome to the show, man.
Good evening, Trevor, and thanks for having me. I like to call myself a sports activist.
Sports activist, yeah, wonderful. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so thank you very much for being here. I think it has been a beautiful week, Minister, as far as sport is concerned in our country, having seen what happened in Tokyo this week with our ladies, Beatrice Masilingi, and of course, medallist Christine Mboma. Give me your reaction to that great news that we have received.
Well, we are still celebrating that achievement,
Yes.
as we know that it has been a while.
Yeah.
Since 1996, we have not been able to reach that achievement.
Yes.
Following Frank Frederick's achievement at the Olympics, even though we had from Paralympic, but not at an Olympic level. So really it's exciting.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I think we are seeing results, and it's just a good feeling knowing that you finally have some job satisfaction, knowing that our efforts have indeed yielded fruits,
Yeah.
that all Namibians can celebrate. And as we say that sport is one of the universal languages. So
Yes.
all Namibians came together, irrespective of your political parties, religious, and we're all just there celebrating
Yeah.
and really coming together as Namibians, showing that Namibian spirit.
Indeed. Is that your observation also, Isack?
Except that I'm not in government.
Yes.
But I can tell you a story. I was on a virtual call
Yeah.
with people from other parts of the world
Yeah.
as I was watching that race. And I forgot to mute.
Yeah.
And I shouted and I threw the laptop away, and I was. It was just euphoric. Not since 1992 and 1996 that we had this. We had Commonwealth and others, but the Olympics tower any other sports event in this world in terms of achievement, and that is why maybe they don't even pay for the top achievers at the Olympics, because it's about national pride. At the World Championships of any other code, they do pay handsome amounts of money. At the Olympics, it's only the government or organizations like we see now that will really reward. And because they want you to see this as you doing it for your country.
Yeah.
This is the ultimate sacrifice that those girls, both of them, have done for this country. Frankie before them, and now these two. This is something that we'll celebrate until we have the next medal.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Minister, you mentioned earlier about the. You said it also on Twitter also this week about what seems to have been a government's role in sort of the development of these girls. What can you tell us about? Was government involved at all in their development to be where they are today?
Definitely, yes. I like telling the story, especially when it comes to the two that we are talking about, Beatrice and Christine. Remember when they started back in 2019?
Yeah.
Beatrice was 15. So both of them, including Christine, so they were still at school. So now with our structure, the Namibia School Sports Union, we normally have your regional championship. And who does this? Is the NSSU structure, which involves our Ministry of Education, and we do transport the athletes from all corners. Like we know now that Christine comes from Shinyungwe.
Yes.
Shinyungwe is like 130 kilometers to Rundu.
Yes.
So already, what do you call that? She didn't walk to the stadium.
Yeah.
So, and at school, they are being nurtured, and athletics at the school level, who are doing these teachers. Teachers are paid for by government. So this is in itself already government investment.
Yeah.
Now, at the regional level, with the athletics, well, a team is then selected. That will then escalate to the national championship where all regions are represented. And I recall particularly that one of 2019. Remember, by then we had issues of prioritizing. And I remember the director then, Mr. Katamba and Mr. Solidaker, we were sitting in my office. Back then I was a permanent secretary, and we had to make a decision whether to host the championship or not. It was a tough one. We didn't have the funding. We had to go to the Ministry of Finance to go and ask for an additional allocation. And finally it happened. And now that is actually a defining moment, because that's when Christine and Beatrice formed the Team Namibia that went to Eswatini, where everything then started. So without that involvement, including the financial commitment to host those competitions, and then again to take them to Eswatini, I don't think we will be celebrating today. So we should not forget the role that government plays, let alone the facilities. Who pays for those facilities? It's government facilities. So I think often at times people want to attach financial values to such development, but really it's a holistic approach. So for us, that is the efforts, and that's the commitment and the support from government. And even coming to Olympics, how do they go to Olympics? Government send them there. We give them funding. So what do you call that?
Okay, it's a fair point. I'm asking that because I think because of the way the whole thing is structured, you have athletes, and they have their coach, and the nation tends to only look at that circle and forgetting, of course, what roles other role players might have played in that thing. But I'll come back to you, Minister. Isack, I know that you are predominantly a football man, but I know that you pay particular attention to sport in general. What is your general attitude towards government's involvement in sport in general?
Look, we don't live in isolation in this country. There's a term, competing interests. When budget is presented, when funds are requested, you'll always hear the word competing interests. I think this gives us an opportunity, without being negative, to re-look the competing interests. Sports should not be the interest that is now downtrodden. Sports should be one of those interests that is on top of the priority list. I think I'll put it that way, in a positive way. Because normally I would have lambasted everybody for neglecting sports. But as the minister said, the two ladies, everybody around that team, and many more others that we have not seen that are coming out. There's another one going to Eastern Europe now in September. I'm sure she's going to do well. So there's a lot of opportunity that sports has. And I think when we look at what should be prioritized, let's look at sports also. And government's role is really to create a conducive environment. It's just like in education. From grade 1 or 0 to 12, it's government's responsibility. After that, it's God for everyone. In sports, it's the same. The conducive environment is created through NSSU and other structures by funding and these things. But after that, you should have had the opportunity that government has created to now float. Look at what is going to happen to these girls. Immediately after Tokyo, there will be a Diamond League. I'm sure they will be invited. The first prize at the Diamond League fetches $10,000 US. In our money, it's probably 100 and something thousand. If you have 5 of those races, you are $500,000 rich. And if you have many more of these people, you have many more opportunities to grow sports in the country and to create wealth through sports. And I say this because not many of our people are academically inclined. Maybe sports is the only way out. And that is why I'm saying let's reprioritize. Sports is perhaps, and from a football perspective, I speak of people that have not done well in academics, but they've gone to excel, and they are now fetching $500,000 per month out of sports. So I will forever maintain that we need to reprioritize sports as one of the top priorities in this country.
Yeah. But is that sort of the outlook, Minister, that that government has on sport? I mean, originally, as children growing up, we perceived sport as leisure,
By the way,
and whatnot, and not as a proper economic sector. Is that the sort of attitude that government is now starting to have also to say really? I mean, you look at people like Frank Fredericks that we spoke about earlier on. He's doing well for himself, and that is thanks to sports. And we want to see, I mean, a girl coming from Shinyungwe village, just out of the blue. And we recently visited her village. We had a story a couple of weeks ago, well before the Olympics started. And she doesn't come from a very good background. Is that sort of the direction that you want to push sports as a ministry?
And I think Isack put it so well that our main role as a ministry, as government, is really to provide conducive environment, to provide that enabling environment for sports to thrive. And looking at the issue of prioritizing it, you have seen that in the NDP5, I think for the first time, that sport has now been included into these high-level developmental goals, I mean developmental plans, which is a good start for us. You have seen in the HPP2 now, under the social progression pillar, the goal 4 speaks to professionalizing sport. So this is really the deliberative steps that government is taking to ensure that sport is not just for recreation purpose, but sport is also one way that we can alleviate the challenge that we are faced with the unemployment rate, especially amongst the youth. Because now also when you look at under the HPP2 with the goal of professionalizing sport, we are looking at improving our facilities, upgrading it. We know that especially the Independent Stadium, I'm sure that will be one of the questions.
Yes.
So we assist with that matter. So under that is also to upgrade the Independent Stadium. And also very key is the issue of talent identification. And I think now going back to 2019, I remember when these girls returned from Eswatini, then appears, I said, look, what are we going to do about these girls? I remember Beatrice was in Swako by then. I was even telling the director, if she's not in my office tomorrow, I'm sending the Itunga to go and get her. Because I then realized that we need to do something about it. And that's where I started with that facilitation. Where did Hank Bota met Beatrice? That was in my office. It's because we realized that we need to nurture the talent. We should not let talent slip. So these are some of the strategies that we are putting in place, and really with the assistance of all stakeholders. And we are grateful to see that corporates are now coming on board. And I like what someone tweeted yesterday. I'm always tagged on these things. I don't know why. Someone tweeted saying that, no, why are corporates only coming on now? Where were they back then? So we want them also to be involved at an early stage, not at the end of the race.
Exactly. But this is, let me still come back to you, Minister. So my difficulty is how we talk about all these things, about how, in the high-level government plans, we have now made provision for sports to professionalize and whatnot. But on the other hand, actually, in real life, there isn't, there's a different language being spoken here, and that is the language of resources. The resources that are being allocated to sports, Minister, are very bad. How do you realize those goals with the meager things that you guys are receiving from Treasury?
I think Isack mentioned it, that we are having competing priorities that we do acknowledge. And as Isack really put it well, and I think it's good that it's coming from him, that it's now time for us to go back on the drawing board and start to rearranging our priorities. So I'm really hopeful with the results that we are seeing now. It will also kind of instill confidence in all the stakeholders to say, look, now we really need to change our priorities. Yes.
Indeed. Isack, your take on the funding of sport in this country?
Nice
I mean,
sport.
I look at what the likes of NFA gets. The NFA has so many teams, the under 20s, the under whatever, and then you have the male and female teams, and I think if it wasn't for the likes of FIFA, it would be a catastrophe there.
And you are mentioning one code out of 52 or thereabout.
Yeah.
If there was a year that NFA's budget that they have submitted to the ministry was 58 million for all its age groups, men and women. Now, if that money, that's probably the amount that will be allocated to all the codes. If only the NFA receives that, what about the other codes? So that money must now be divided into small bits and pieces. So you really get, it's better than just not getting anything. Because now you get something, and there are many other programs that you must do. You must talent identification, development, international competition, national competition. All of these things must come from that amount of money. So sports funding is one of the most underrated things. We really don't get the attention and the funding we deserve. And in saying that, the minister is around, maybe she will take this. In the Sports Act that we are now reviewing, there is a provision for Sports Development Fund. If in 30 years we could have activated that, by now we'd be speaking a different language. The corporates that are now willingly coming on board, if with that euphoria of independence and Frankie Fredericks and now, we probably would have had a few millions or billions, and we would not be crying about the funding of sports. So there's still, we are now the lost generation, but those ones coming, and those ones coming after Masilingi and Mboma, they should find a sports development fund that is ready to take them anywhere, to develop them, to take them all over the world where they need to go and prepare properly. I think we need to reactivate that in the new act if it comes out. There has to be provision for that, and we really need to put a serious team behind that sports development fund. That's just speaking to corporates, engaging in initiatives that are going to fund that fund, so that we do not even have to run to corporates if we have to send our people outside.
Indeed.
Yeah, I think just echoing the sentiments of
Before you go on a break, yes, please.
Okay, of Isack. When you look at, for example, South Africa, I mean, that's how they are doing well. They are funded by lotteries, for example.
Yes.
So we are also hopeful that with the activation of the Sports Development Fund, the body that will then be responsible for sports, not only the ministry, should then go out there and mobilize for resources. We cannot solely depend on treasury for funding sports. We have seen countries that are doing so well. It's not that they receive money from treasury.
I agree, totally. Yes. We go for a quick break and we'll be back. We continue with the show, and of course on the agenda tonight is sports. Now, Minister, before we went on a break, Isack spoke about the Sports Act that is being amended to sort of accommodate some new provisions. But already at the policy level, Minister, we have issues. The sport reward policy that was established some years ago, brought about some
2018.
years ago. 2018. What is the status of that policy?
I don't know what you mean by the status.
No, because...
But the policy was
yes.
approved by Cabinet in 2018,
Yeah.
and it's being implemented. So with the reward policy, then, you may recall, I think it's the time when Paralympics scoop medal, I think Johanna Benson got a house,
Yes.
and diplomatic passports and so on. Then we realized there's a need to have a kind of a guideline that guides the way how we reward the selfless dedication for these athletes to really put Namibia out there on the map. And this policy was then approved, and the policy provides guidelines in terms of how do you reward. For example, at various levels of competition, you'll have your Commonwealth, for example. There is an amount to it. I know that we had Helalia and Jonas who got medals at the Commonwealth. And then you have World Championship as well, and then Olympics. Now, when it comes to Olympics, there's an amount for gold, silver, and bronze, and including the coach. So, yeah, we are working on expediting the issues of that reward, and hopefully that when the athletes are back next week, we should then be ready.
So the policy is a workable, it's implementable now. It's in a form where it can be used now.
It is.
So why are you guys still owing athletes from 2019, all Africa Games and others, if you have this policy in place?
Yeah, no, like I mentioned, it's the issues, I think, of resources, and we are really working on it. I know that our executive director is seized with that matter, so hopefully by next week we should really be seeing that we've concluded the issues of payment.
Okay.
But I know that there were some that were given. I recall that. I'm sure it was in the newspaper. We did. I think it was the World Championship for Para.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank God.
Yeah, no, I saw it. So
Yeah.
we are, even though we know that there are still some few outstanding, but we have done that.
Yeah. Are things that bad, Minister, that people from 2019 up to 2021, some are still haven't received anything? Is that how bad the situation is?
No, I don't think we should say that it's bad.
Yeah.
But really, again, coming back to issues of competing priorities,
Yeah.
but at least we are seized with the matter now.
Okay. Okay, Minister. So sorry, I caught you off guard there, but I needed to put that across.
Okay.
You want to comment on that, or should I ask you, Isack?
Can I first comment?
Yeah, please.
Just to support. You see, there is, after the Christine heroics,
Yeah.
we have discovered the talent that we have, commentators in vernacular languages.
Yeah.
And people are making songs out of this. You see, out of one person,
Yeah.
all of these things are coming. And the corporates are flooding these girls with all sorts of rewards. Now, that reward policy, if it can capitalize on the goodwill from corporates already, while the iron is still hot, strike. Because after a month, these people may not be interested anymore, and they will be focusing on others. So I think the reward policy should really, or whoever manages that, should really go to these corporates and say, guys, so that you don't wait for another Beatrice or another Christine. Why don't we just pool our resources and say, Company X, what would you want to give if an athlete attains this height or this level? Company Z, what would you, from your industry or your sector? So that already those things are in the basket. And then government could then check from treasury what is there. When an athlete excels, you already have something to give because it's been given by corporates already. And they don't have to do what they are currently doing. So I think that's an opportunity for us, that a sport that we can use.
But that brings me now to something that transpired on Thursday evening. Minister, you might have knowledge of the message that your public relations office sent out on Thursday evening, saying that the ministry wanted to sort of harmonize these many rewards that are being given to these girls. Can you expand on that? What was that about?
Yeah, I've seen also those messages. I know we discussed it as a ministry to say, look, we are only picking up these things on Twitter and in social media. Standard Bank gave 300,000, Pastor Polana gave this. All what we are saying is that we want to compile a list to coordinate so that we are able to have a whole list of all sponsors who have come on board, and also to just acknowledge that contribution. I think I have to clear it up here that we are not planning to go and collect. I think even the message was clear, saying that the contact people should not be collecting gifts. But I think it's now being rectified, because initially the idea was the contact person should be the executive director, who's our official correspondent, so not the sports commission numbers or names that were in that message. So I'm sure the executive director will still clarify that matter, but that's how we are going to go about it, because I think it kind of stirred some emotion. Last night my phone was just blowing up. People, I mean, I come from that region, so they are all like, no, you know, the Karango East Regional already had their team, can't we use them? So we are saying is we want to acknowledge this contribution. And when we will have the welcoming reception for the athletes, then we'll have it on official paper. We are not in any intention going to collect this for them, but really it's just to coordinate, because we want to acknowledge. For us, this is really something we've always been preaching, that corporates come on board, and now they've come on board. We just want to acknowledge them.
Exactly.
Yes.
But now again, to expand on that, Minister, because I think the impression that was created, and you have alluded to it slightly, is that people seem to think that you want to sort of appropriate not only the gifts, but also sort of the athletes. I am wondering, so when these girls are now at a level that they are headed into, they came out of the government structures, the platforms that were provided to them by government for them to arrive where they are. So how much longer is government going to be involved with these athletes? They will become global stars the way things seem to be, and they have their own coach. Will we have this thing of people wondering whether they can now be on their own with their coach, or government will still be having a part in that?
I think that is still an issue that we are discussing and strategizing, because remember now again we have our initiative of talent identification, talent nurturing. So we will discuss it further to see how do we then still support. We really don't want to leave leave them just like that, but we still want to continue. I know I had a discussion with someone who was asking me, so now that they are back from Olympics, what then? What's going to happen? So I think, and someone was like, we always lose people like that, so please let's not lose them that way. So we are also really looking into it, that we really continue to, they are only 18.
Exactly.
Yes. So they still have how many Olympics? Isack, you're the expert.
Maybe 5.
3. Yeah, look at that, 5. So we are looking at the Shelly Ends. I mean, Shelly End went there how many times? So we don't intend to just dump them with the coach. I mean, by the way, we found the coach for him, so we are not going to leave them out. And remember, they also have this. There's also this challenge that we are working on, the one that they were banned from the 400 meters. And the president, during the send-off, expressed his concern, and he has indicated it that we are not going to leave it there. We're going to fight. So us now as ministry, we are running with that directive. So someone was like, when are you guys going to pronounce yourself? And like, just because we are quiet now, it doesn't mean that we are not doing anything. We are now busy consulting. We are looking at putting up teams. There should be a medical expert team. There must be a legal team. There must be a social team that kind of speaks to the activists. So we are looking at 3 core teams, because we started already with consultation. We've consulted our counterparts and to learn from them how they dealt with the Caster Semenya case. So for me, I think we are really working on that matter. And very soon we'll be able to appraise the nation in terms of the steps that we intend to take.
Thank you, Minister.
If I may, I was also one of those quietly so asking, when is government going to say something about how these girls were mistreated, abused? That is what it is. Those girls are only 18. The people at high levels, even yesterday, Sebastian Coe, alluding to things about those girls. And we are quiet. I think we shouldn't, Minister, these consultations and over-analysis of things, sometimes it's too much. Yesterday, I'm a newspaper person, a news person. I read most of Europe, they are saying things about our girls. And we are quiet. And that is how things start. And you will just find them saying, oh, we are going again to test them to see whether that 200 that they ran was true. And then you are banned again, they take the medals away. So if we don't raise our voices as small as we are, and we can use diplomat, we are signatories to international conventions. We are a member of AU, which has a sports council. Yeah. We are region 5 of that council. What is he saying? Are we waiting? Casta was isolated. She was banned. Our girls are being abused. We are isolated. They will go to Nyon Saba. Yeah. She was banned. And they will take us one by one. And if we do not unite, we are going to see Africans, especially sub-Saharan Africans, not going to Olympics and other international events. So we need to start raising our voices. Yeah. The president started. We should all be saying things that are supporting our girls. Those girls can say, no, you people don't support me, you don't defend me, you don't protect me, I'm not going to run anymore. We are going to lose a gem. So our voices must be heard. When somebody says something, we must counter where they are saying this thing. Yeah. A Polish former runner who lost to Frank Fredericks many years ago has the guts to come and say, this girl must be tested to see whether she's a woman. Who is he? And we are quiet. It cannot be. Yeah. Another one, and that's how they start. They say, you are retired. They won't say much. Because if we say, they will take us on. You say, another retired. And then it's a groundswell of retired people who mean something to athletics. And then they come and they isolate us as a country. Yeah. These girls are gems. There are many more of these. We are going to discourage the others if we don't defend these ones. Yeah.
Just to stay with you, Isack, is there anything that can be done? Okay, there's, of course, the issue of the pronouncements that must be made. I think it's very encouraging. But at a more personal level, is there anything that can be done for these girls? They are too young to go through what they have gone through in the past couple of weeks. The things that have been said about them, terrible. Is there any other kind of help that you think can be procured for these young ladies?
I think sports psychologists and maybe general psychologists, those need to be deployed to just help. And I think where I come, religious people, traditional people, I believe in those. People that they know, that come from their surroundings, that can speak some form of, not sense is not the right word, goodness into them, encouraging. I think from a sports perspective, your sports psychologist, but back home, there has to be people that they identify with, that they see respected people, that the government or the ministry must go and speak to these people to speak to the kids, because they have people that they listen to. Now, Hank has been with them forever. Hank, maybe it's like, if you are my teacher, sometimes I just disregard you. But let's have other people to really speak to these girls, to make them understand, put them at ease that we are there for you. And as you gain limelight, prominence, some of these things will be said to put you down, because it's an issue of jealousy and envy. It's geopolitics also in play. So in a language that befits the status or the level of these girls, those messages must go through to them from people that they look up to. And I think it should be a concerted effort from everybody that is close to them.
I think that will also build on to what we started, because when this news broke immediately, because back then they were still in Europe, immediately then we contacted the coach and they were already receiving psychological assistance. That was already in Europe before they even landed here. So we already started getting involved, speaking to the coach. I mean, I personally have been with these girls since 2019. So I actually also speak to them on a regular basis. So I did call them. So we made calls. We did already take up this issue. And because I was also worried in terms of their psychological space that they will be in, and knowing that this was very close to their biggest competition. So it did affect them.
Indeed.
Yeah, but I like that suggestion coming through, saying that, everyone, the whole village that we know, as we say, the village raise a girl. So, yeah, perhaps it's also an avenue that's worth exploring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Minister, let's speak in general, a bit, sports in general. You alluded earlier to the issue of same name as Independence Stadium. What is happening to our beloved Independence Stadium, named after a very important chapter of our country?
Like I already mentioned, that we assist with that matter, and within the HPP2, we are looking at upgrading at least the Independence Stadium at a level that we are able to host international competition. We know that the stadium was constructed when? Some of us maybe were not even born.
60 years back.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's high time. Yeah. And as a ministry, we are equally concerned. We share that concern. We share the frustration. And really, we are looking at it. We've been talking to various stakeholders. I know we were approached by NFA with a CAF following Motsepe's appointment. I think he has expressed that facility upgrades or facilities in Africa is one of his focus that he wants to embark upon. So we've been talking to various stakeholders. So we are just looking at how best we do it, because we don't want it to have that it should only be for football. Remember, that's the only tartan track that we have. So it should still continue to serve also for athletics. But in addition, maybe I can also mention it now that under the HPP, we are also looking at upgrading or constructing stadiums in regions as well. Because remember, I mentioned the talent identification pathway. We want to start creating excellence centers in region, at the regional level. So we are also looking at least constructing around 4, formed, whether it's financially or during the HPP, but also at the regions. I know that we are also looking at prioritizing Kavango West, for example, because we know that being a last region, new region, we do not have a facility yet in that area.
Indeed. We go for our final break, and then we'll come with the last stretch of the show. We continue with the last stretch of the show. Minister, I'll come back to you still. You spoke about talent identification as being at the core of your plans. Speaking of stadiums, the Oshakati one is more a political arena now for rallies than a sports thing.
No.
What is being done about it? There's nothing happening there, Minister.
No.
Absolutely nothing.
You must send your news people. The Oshakati one, 2020. Remember, we're supposed to have the newspaper cup taking place, being hosted in Oshana region. So what we did, the whole of 2019, in fact, I was saying it looks far much better than the independence. We redid the lawn, and I like the approach that we took together with the Oshakati City Town Council. So it was very cost effective because of the manner that they used their graders, and we had someone who came in, put up the lawn. It looked very green. And it was ready to host the newspaper cup. And the governor, Honorable Ilimari really did a good job there to coordinate that.
Okay.
So
It's not
no,
political rally.
I think I can
no, it
support that.
shouldn't be,
I was
yeah.
part of the inspection team
Yes.
just before we called off the newspaper cup powered by Standard Bank because of COVID. I was on the ground with the
Yes.
governor. We met several stakeholders. It really looked prim and proper, out of this world.
Exactly.
And they built a netball court, I think 2 of them, high-class netball
Yeah.
courts. I think their stadium, if they leave it that way,
Yeah.
it's at the moment the best in the
It
country.
is.
Oh,
It
Yeah,
is,
at the moment it's the best in the and why it's not being used. We're in anticipation of us hosting the Namibian Newspaper Cup again, and we had to call it off again because of the COVID figures that have been rising. So, but we are in contact with the people on the ground, with the football leaders of the region. We see pictures, we see video clips, and it's really a good stadium. If what has happened there can happen elsewhere, in other parts of the world or the country where there are stadiums, to bring them to that level. And I don't know how much it costs, but I'm sure it's community involvement that brought it up. I know, because I'm from the south, J. Stephanus in Ketmans, those are people from the location that came and they painted this thing, they made sure the grass is prim and proper. If the community plays their role, then nothing will go to waste.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't dilapidate things where the community is involved. But if you exclude them, they leave it and they will,
I think it also gives them that sense of ownership. And we have been saying this, that, look, the local authorities should also now step up.
Yeah.
They must come on board, because remember, the responsibility of sport should not just lies with the portfolio ministry. They have a service to deliver to their residents. And sports creates social cohesion.
Exactly.
It even brings, it uplifts the economic status of the town. Look, for example, the Oshakati now. We had previously in Marintal, before it went to Gatima, I think, in Marintal, and all the lodges were fully booked. So the ripple effect of that is really felt by the community, and it will benefit the town council at the end of the day.
That's what I wanted to say, actually, that I mean, at some stage as a country, we want to be in contention for hosting continental, the African Cup of Nations or whatever, and the benefits really to the country. I mean, look at what the World Cup has done to South Africa. They have left them with good infrastructure, and the economy, I'm sure, benefited from that. Isack, recently, something from a football point of view happened. There was the appeals committee of the Namibia Sports Commission gave the nod to the Namibia Premier League to be registered, I suppose, as a body that can run a league or something like that. And you are involved with Tura Magic, and you guys are already with the other league, the one with a long name, I can't remember.
NPFL.
Exactly. So now, what is what? What is going on in this country as far as the league football is concerned?
Look, my honest view, which I've expressed publicly on platforms where the football leaders are, I've said, this is an opportunity for us to bring warring parties together if they are at war. I hope it's just an issue of difference, but if they're at war, somebody must bring them together. The country cannot afford 2 top leagues. Already, people do not go to the stadium. The corporates have shied away from sponsoring football. Now, do you want one car money to split their money into 2 or what? It defies logic for me that we are at this stage. We should not, from the beginning, we should not have been here. Had we done the things that needed to be done, we would not be here. We left it too late. And I think many a times people are afraid to be called names. You are weak and what. Sometimes be weak for the good reason, for the right reasons. Be seen to be weak, but the long-term effect of your weakness is that things are fine in the country. But everybody wants to be the strong man, and as a result, nobody wants to be told anything by the other one. And so it goes, until it's at the stage where nobody wants to pull back. And that is really where we are. I've said it in so many words without really saying to you what the real issue is. But it's really an issue of people needing to come to the table and say, guys, we have 2 leagues. It is unfathomable that you will have these things. So let's speak about I am in football, and therefore I don't want to be seen to be one side or the other. But the solution is really we need to have one league, one top-tier league in this country. And now you will have two.
Yeah,
Premier League is Premier is whatever it's called. You can't. You can't. And with the minister being here, I'm appealing. If you have not done so yet, please intervene. That this thing does not go further than this. What will happen? Now, we're expecting in 14 days from the day of pronouncement, this license should be given or not. Or the commission will appeal. If they do not grant, these guys will go to court. And then they will tear apart the Sports Act because it's still in operation. And maybe there they will find solace with that Sports Act, and maybe it will be in their favor or not. And you do not want the custodian of the Sports Act to go and stand in court for something he or she has not started.
But that is exactly why, Minister, you are in a predicament here, because generally you are only, as a government, you're only allowed to, there's interference.
Intervention.
You can only intervene and not interfere,
Yes.
according to the FIFA statutes. Does that leave you in a bit of a difficult position? Because the thing is, we have NFA. It's a public institution. It receives public funding. It is a state institution like any other. But somehow we have individuals within that fraternity, whether it's NFA or NPL or others, that seem to be a law unto themselves. There isn't really fear that we still report to a government of this country, and therefore we must do things within the confines of the instructions. Is it a difficult thing to really get back on track?
I think in terms of whether it's difficult to get on track, it's going to be, it will require another session. But the short of the long story is the ministry's interest is really to see that football is being played in the country, because we know that at the center of the two elephants not agreeing, who is suffering? It's the athletes, the footballers. These are the youth of this country that we are saying we have high youth unemployment. And look at what the leagues have done where our soccer players have been promoted. Now today we are celebrating Peter Shalulile, making it even in the other countries' league. There's the Dion Hotos, Petrus Shitembi is in Malaysia. We have the Stefanes, you can name them all. But really at the core of all this debacle that we are discussing, it should be the athletes. And really it's to urge all the leaders in the football that, look, we have a mandate to deliver here. I think we should stop this playing cat and mouse and whatever it's called. We have a mandate.
Can the ministry not summon them, both parties, to the table and put your foot on the ground and say, going forward, this is the directive?
I'm not so sure.
Would that be outside your mandate?
Yeah, I think one needs to strike a balance between not being seen to interfere, because remember now the consequences that comes with interfering. We've seen countries, what has happened, being banned for how many years, and at the end of the day, disadvantaging our players. So we are really treading carefully, but we are also at the same time still exploring avenues. I think we have not exhausted all yet. So especially now following it, there was now the ruling, and so the ministry is really, really keeping an eye on this matter, and hopefully then we'll be able to resolve. I mean, at the end of the day, really, we want sport to be promoted and to be developed in Namibia. That's the mandate that we have.
Indeed. I think we have done justice to the topic. Isack, thank you for coming in today. Minister, really an honor to have you on the show. Last time somebody made this similar comment, they got really in trouble. It was Patrice Evra, who was on a TV set, I think Sky Sport, with a retired female footballer. And he applauded the lady for really good commentary because she knew her stuff. But then it was perceived to be, Oh, so he had undermined her that she doesn't understand football. Why is he making these comments? But you impressed me, Minister. You understand the craft, and we appreciate your time. We just hope that everything goes well with your ministry and what you want to do.
No, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. So that is the conversation for tonight. Thank you for watching, and have a pleasant Sunday evening.